Representative Diane Black is a small business owner and former educator and has been a registered nurse for over 40 years. She served in the Tennessee House and the Tennessee Senate. As a state legislator, she went against her own Republican governor to help defeat a plan to bring an income tax to Tennessee. Last year, she was elected to Congress. She's known as a savvy and experienced legislator. Congressman Black was selected as one of only 2 freshmen to serve on the powerful House Ways and Means Committee, where she serves on the Oversight and Human Resources Subcommittee. Welcome, Representative Black.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you today.
Representative Black, Congress was on recess earlier this month, and you conducted town halls throughout your district. Give us a report from your district. What are people telling you?
Well, people are very concerned about our debt. And I think that's the #1 issue all the way across my district. It doesn't matter whether it's a farmer or whether it's a grandmother. Everybody is concerned about the debt and the amount of debt that has piled up in this country for over the last 60 years.
But what do they want you to do about it?
Well, they want us to get it under control. And they want us to get back to where we can eventually say that we've got a balanced budget and that we are not spending more than what we bring in.
But what do we do about it? What's the next step? What specifically can we do to get this under control?
You first of all have to acknowledge the problem. We're spending too much and we've been spending too much. The second thing you have to do is you have to look at what's the driver. What's causing it? And once you know what's causing it, you got to look at the things that can fix it. And what's causing it is the entitlement programs. And now, when we talk about those entitlement programs, what we have to talk about is reform. How do we reform them so that we can keep our promise to those that we promised in their retirement, those 55 and older, that we're not going to impact them. You know, after all, they were the ones who we promised this to, and we said, this program's going to be there when you need it. So I don't believe that we can go back and hit that group of people. But I think what we can do is start looking at reforming the program so it's sustainable.
If you had the total unilateral ability to pass one law to get us back on track, what would that be?
First of all, I think you do what we're doing in the Path to Prosperity as far as looking at programs that are duplicative, programs that don't work, that don't have measurement tools. When we sat around the table and we went through this budget and we looked at the number of programs that were out there and had hearings to say, okay, tell us about your program. No metrics, no way to measure it to say it works.
Could you name a couple of those programs?
Well, I'll give you one program in particular that we're really getting hit very hard on, and folks say that we don't like students who are at the lower income that would go into a program such as a Pell Grants to be able to go into school. Look, I've taught at the college level. I know how important it is to help low-income students to get their education. But when you have a program that someone can get into and stay in for 10 years, is that really in the best interest of either the taxpayer or the individual? Because if I say to my children, and I'm going to use my children as an example, I have 3 of them, hey, just take your time getting out of college. You've got 10 years. You've got 10 years that mom and dad will pay for you to be in college. How long do you think it's going to take them? Probably 10 years because I'm going to pay for it.
So you would cut back Pell Grants?
I would cut back Pell Grants to a point where it's reasonable that I would encourage those students to do what they need to do, and that's to study hard and get out of school and get a job and be productive. So let's cut it back to something that's reasonable. If right now it's 10 years, let's cut it back to 5. I gave my kids 4 years to get out of college. I'll give them 5. Now that's a reasonable amount. Most reasonable people would say that makes sense. We can agree on that. Whether you're liberal or whether you're conservative, we can agree that we need to be reasonable about when we give someone an opportunity to be able to do something. In my opinion, I think it's cruel to keep them in a situation where they're beholden to me. So 5 years, let's do 5 years, that makes sense. Let's cut off the other 5 years, there's a savings right there. So getting rid of duplicative programs and programs that don't show that they have a measurements tool, a metric. So cutting, let's cut. Let's find those things that we can cut. Second thing that we need to do is just what we're doing in the Path to Prosperity and looking at those entitlement programs and how it is that we can get them in line so they can be successful and sustainable. The third thing that I'd like to do, and I know some people say, oh, it takes too long to do it, is I think a balanced budget amendment on spending. Just like we do back in the state of Tennessee, we have an amendment in our Constitution that says we cannot spend more than what we take in.
Paul Ryan's a bright guy. He has his budget plan. He's chairman of the budget committee.
He is very
but
bright.
even his budget doesn't bring it down to that 18 to 20% immediately.
Not immediately, it doesn't. But
I mean, that's the historical levels.
Yeah, you're right. You have to start getting that curve and bending that curve, and then along the way, as you bend that curve, you might be able to do that even a little faster. But you've got to have a starting point, and his program does.
And I commend him for what he's trying to do, but you're still looking at over 10 years an additional $4-5 trillion of deficit.
And you're so right. And I would love to be able to have the magic wand to bring that back faster. But again, if you start to bend the curve and you start to bring it back down, as you're bending the curve, there may be some other things that you can do in the meantime to help start cutting those costs even faster. But bending the curve is a beginning.
Gas prices are $4 and going up. It has to be affecting people in your district.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. It is probably right now the second thing that we hear. We hear about debt, and along with that debt, we hear about jobs. And then from there, we also hear about gas prices. It's really, really hurting people.
Now, you co-sponsored a bill to allow offshore drilling. I was under the impression that that bill isn't even necessary. The Obama administration should have to allow it. What's the story on that? Why isn't the Obama administration following the law?
Well, I would like to ask why he doesn't follow the law in a lot of ways, but in this particular situation, we want to get the drilling started and moving forward, and they've been holding it up, and so this just puts another one of those directives to our president to say, Congress is requiring this is what you do. We need to drill in the Bakken fields. We know that there's enough oil. Experts say anywhere from 200 to 500 years worth of oil there. Why in the world is our president going to Brazil and telling the Brazilians that he will help to fund their offshore drilling, and yet we have wells right here in this country that we should be drilling in so that we can become independent of other nations? And we need to continue to force this administration. Obviously, they don't want to go there, but it is where we need to go. We need to become oil independent. And I'm actually for all of the above. I think we need oil, we need natural gas. I'm for the renewables if they show that they really do have a return on their investment. I don't want to throw money away. But if you can show me that you have return on investment, let's do all of those. I don't think that energy is just a one size. It's going to take a lot of pieces of the puzzle to make us energy independent.
Now, you're on a committee, most powerful committee, that has the opportunity in some ways to defund Obamacare. What are you doing with regard to that?
Well, we've had several bills that we've passed in the House to defund Obamacare. Of course, the very first vote that I made was to repeal Obamacare. The Senate did not take that up, and they're not going to pass it. So Obamacare is something we're going to have to dismantle piece by piece by piece. And we're in the process of doing that. And you know, I've had people say to me, well, why are you trying to do that? Because the Senate isn't going to take those bills up, or if they do, they're not going to pass those bills. I don't think as a body of the House that we should be making a decision about whether the Senate is going to pass something that we think is a good idea. Always in the House chamber and then also in the Senate chamber, I felt very strongly that if you feel strongly about something, you need to do it. You don't need to second guess whether the other body is going to take it up and pass it or not. And by doing that, you, number one, do something you feel is right, which is what you should be doing anyway, and not second guessing whether the other body is going to take it up. But the second thing is you're raising the awareness to the American people to say, this is wrong. And hopefully, as they see that what you're trying to do is the right thing to do, they're going to put some pressure on that other body to pass that bill as well.
The debt ceiling.
Yes.
That vote's coming up.
Yes.
Have you thought about what you're going to do?
Well, I have. I've thought a lot about it because it's a very, very serious vote. And I know that I cannot vote for a simple, clean debt ceiling bill. There's going to have to be a number of pieces that are put there. I haven't seen the package yet, so I can't say exactly what I will or will not support in a package, but I gave you an example of some things that I think are structural changes, because that's really what we need to do. We need to have structural changes in place before we just say, oh, let's go ahead and put it on the credit card once again.
So you will not vote for the debt ceiling increase if there aren't some structural changes?
There has to be structural changes for me. I will not vote for a straight up or down vote. I will not.
Well, good luck to you, and good luck to you making the changes. Thank you so much for joining us today. Congresswoman Diane Black from Tennessee 6. Please come back again soon.
Well, please invite me back. I enjoyed being here with you. Thank you.